Good morning, everybody. It's been a bit of a while. I saw you last year. I can't say that. Yes, I saw you last year. Anyway, we're excited. Look, I got goosebumps. It's been a long, long time, and we are so very excited to be with you at this Builders Live. For those, I see there have been a lot of questions because they're trying to get out of work so that they can watch the live. Just get diarrhea. Just say that you're sick and you've got to leave. No, only kidding. You can watch it later. So if you're sneaking in, remember you can just follow the link, get back onto the Builders Facebook page, onto the YouTube channel, and you'll be able to then watch it again. Guys, it's really good to be with you. Today we've got a big topic. Some of you have made and kind of not so successful. Some of you are half successful. But what we're going to do today is take you through all the steps. It really is simple. And you're probably saying, oh, come on, Tanya, you say that all the time. But it is simple. There are a few little things that you need to get right. And it's going to be seed sowing. We're going to show some leaf propagation. We're going to show some hardwood cuttings, softwood cuttings, some of the pitfalls. Yeah, there's lots going on here. Transplanting. We've got it all, guys. But first of all, let's see who's here this morning. We've got somebody who's putting some terrible stuff on this channel. If you are listening to this, you need to remove yourself immediately. Andrew, good morning. Good morning. Almi, good morning. Thank you for helping out there. Isabel Faree, good morning. Bets, good morning. Beanie, good morning. Sue, guys, it's good to have you here with us. And there are lots more of you on there, and we're going to get to some of you a little bit later. But guys, let's start off with what's simple. Let's start off with the easy part in terms of propagation. Now, propagation can be a whole book, a whole novel, but we're going to break it down into these bite-sized chunks because that, of course, is what gardening is all about. So the first and the easiest form of propagation is here. Now, have a look here. I'm going to bring them down to you over here, which is for all of you plant parents out there, all of you plant parents that just love your indoor plants, and you might not have a very big garden, but there's always space to put another plant. And let me tell you that no matter how big or small it is, there is always space for another plant. So this is simple propagation by means of water. Have a look here. There we go, just popped into a jar, and you can see these beautiful roots. And this works particularly well with any indoor plants. And they can live in here for a long time, for years in fact, because they do gain some nutrition. You can pop a little bit of liquid plant food into here, but generally people don't like it because then it discolors the water. So, but this is quick and easy, folks. This is really simple, and it's kind of on trend, you know. So anything, old bottles, leftover wine bottles, whatever you want, take a little cutting and you simply just pop it into the water. My only area of concern, my only note to you is the following, is that, folks, if you are going to take this cutting out of here, all right, and then plant it into soil, that's sometimes when things can go wrong, because you've got a lot of what we call water shoots, young soft roots that have developed. You're taking them from this liquid medium, and all of a sudden you're putting them into a bark-based or a soil medium, and that's often when you can lose them. So pay careful attention when you do transplant them over. They are going to need quite a bit of extra water, obviously, because they've been sitting in the water all along and just being able to just suck up everything that they need. So this is one of the easiest. Give it a bash. Our grannies used to do it. Yes, all over. There were jars and there were plants put in, and normally on the kitchen windowsill. They were all over, whether it be an African violet or whatever it was. But you've got those memories. I know you have. And us too, we can do exactly the same. So let's pop these little boys back here. And they really are nice and easy. Okay, next form of propagation. Now, Ari wants to say hello. Ari, come and say hello. Ari, you remember I introduced you to Ari. Oh no, Ari doesn't want to come. Ari, come say hello, Baba. Come. Ari, come say hello. Come say hello. Many of you will remember this little thing. Come here, puppy. Everybody's coming to say hello now. Come here. Come here. Ari was that little thing that I introduced you to towards the end of last year. And look how this munchkin has grown. And it talks the hind leg off a donkey. It tells us big stories. But she's also learning a bit of gardening. I must tell you that she has, in particular, learned how to dig. Yes. I think that's a bit of an instinctive thing. And her and I are having a bit of tussle in the veggie garden at the moment about whose veggie garden it actually is. Never mind. Guys, let's get on to the next form of propagation, which is what we call cuttings. Okay. So cuttings is when you're going to take a part of the plant, either the tip or just below that, or some of what we call hardwood. And that's how they are defined. So if we had to take this plant over here, let's take this plant over here. This is a little salvia. And this salvia is in dire need of a prune, which is great because we're going to take some cuttings from it today. How do we know that it needs a prune? Guys, it's quite simple. Look at the base. The base of the plant, very, very naked, losing lots of leaves. You've got the end bits up here, the last of this summer flush. But if we had to give it a hard pruning over here, but at the same time take some cuttings, we'll be able to make more of it. So let's go through the different types. So we get tip cuttings. And obviously that's quite self-explanatory. There's a tip cutting. Okay. Then we get a semi-hardwood. And semi-hardwood is all, and the descriptions are based on what the medium is. So this would be a semi-hardwood, okay? And then you get hardwood. Now, this does not have hardwood unless it's a very, very old plant, which would be right at the base. Different plants respond better to different methods of propagation. So you're probably thinking, oh yes, Mum, patience. Yes, your busy lizzies. They work brilliantly from tip cuttings. So if you just take the tip off, okay, which is soft, okay, so that's a soft tip cutting, they propagate really, really easily. And tip cuttings is probably going to be the one that you're going to stick with because it's one of the easiest and it's one of the most successful. The only thing I need to caution you to is the following. When you are doing tip cuttings, is don't remove the material when the tip is too soft. Now, how do you work that out? It's kind of like a trial and error thing, but if you can push here on the stem without actually bruising it, okay, without actually bruising it, and it doesn't bend a lot, then you know that you're good to go. All right, so in other words, so this one over here, can you see that? Very soft and floppy. That is not going to be an ideal tip cutting. It needs to get just a little bit firmer than this. You can see that. I can move it around quite a bit. So it needs to be not the fresh growth. You let that fresh growth sit there for a couple of weeks just to harden off a wee bit. And then you can take your tip cuttings with great success. And if you're new at this, I'm going to urge you to stick with this method because it works like a charm. Okay, so what are we going to need for this? We're going to need a few bits and pieces, but first of all, what I do want to show you is what we've got over here. So have a look here, guys. These are some tip cuttings, but this is a semi-hardwood. Okay, so it's taken from the semi-hardwood, so it's also tip, and then we've taken from further down the plant. And we'll show you these a little bit later again and how to simply transplant them. This was a soft cutting, and you can see, because, also tip cuttings, because you can see that the material that was used, the base of it here, was actually very, very soft and tender. So the rule of thumb is shrubs tend to do better from semi-hardwood cuttings. Okay? Your soft perennials do better from tip cuttings, which are not soft but semi. Okay, so you're going to find your way around this. And remember, if you ever get stuck on these, you can also always just check out the Gardener magazine, which is available at your local builders. And that's going to tell you exactly what you need to do and how you need to approach it. So here's another example. These are some little azaleas. And these are also some tip cuttings, but you can see the tip cutting was taken from firmish shoots. Okay, so not that soft floppy. Very, very important. And here's a little free weed that came along with those. Alrighty, so let's get started and work out exactly what you're going to need. And the first thing you're going to need is very important, is a sharp pair of secateurs. Now, when you are going to take cuttings, pick your material early in the morning. Okay, early in the morning, not in the heat of the day. In the heat of the day, the plant is stressed out. It's not the greatest time. Early in the morning when the plant is still fresh. But preparation is key, and it's key to everything. So it's important that you make sure that you've got everything ready, so that you literally go and take your cuttings, your material is ready wherever you're going to be planting them, so that they're not hanging around and getting stressed out. The worst thing is taking these cuttings, leaving them for 2, 3, 4 hours, sometimes 6 hours, and then transplanting it, or actually derooting them, and then wondering why 80% of them don't take. It's important that we transfer these from the living plant into our growing medium as quickly as possible and as painlessly as possible for these little plants, because it's all about the stress that the plant goes through. Okay, so what mediums do you use? Folks, there are so many different recipes. You just need to simply Google it and you will see there's a recipe for this, there's a recipe for that, and every person has their preference on their different recipe. And my mixture is one that I've been using. I was taught it when I was a student of gardening, and it's what I use and what I've continued to use all along. So let's share it with you. Now, if we're going to start with what we call just a soft tip cutting, we're going to do the following. And it's very simple, guys. It really is very, very simple. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get my trug. And this is where we're going to create our mixture. Nice and simple. What we are going to need is one of these guys. Now, you know the stuff. Come on, you know the stuff. This is beautiful palm peat. Remember, this is the block. That's the lovely block. And the palm peat, these blocks are available at your local builders. One block, pop it into a container like this, add 4 or 5 liters of water, and it swells up, and then it breaks up into this beautiful friable material. Now, this stuff over here basically is the outside of the coconut that's been kind of shaved off to form this beautiful soft friable medium. It's lightweight. It's got lots of air pockets in it. It's also got a great pH, which is ideal for plants. And not only plants, but for seeds, seedlings, and for when we're propagating. Okay, so let's get started, and I'm going to give you a very basic recipe, and I'm going to do it in handfuls. So it's going to make it a little bit easier for you in terms of that. So I'm going to take 1, 2, okay, 3 handfuls. 3 handfuls of my palm peat, all right? That's in there. Nice and easy. So now the palm peat, what's also very important with the palm peat is this, is because, you see there, water, okay? So it holds a generous amount of water so that when your plants need them, when your little cuttings, your little propagation units, when they need them, they can simply take it out of the palm peat. And that's very important, because probably the main reason why we fail is simply because of water. They dry out. And in this way, by using the palm peat, it does help for that a great, great deal. Okay, now, next up, one of your simplest, most inexpensive ingredients, and you'll see a lot of it being used in different forms of propagation, is just some river sand. And this you can also get at your local builders in bags. So it's a coarse river sand, and I'm going to go with 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, nice and simple. Okay, so we've got that in there, and then lastly, and this is optional, you can add this or you don't have to add this. I'm going to, what do I tell you to do? Do I tell you to use it or not to use it? I'm not sure, because For me, I just put it in because it gives the plants a little bit more surface area to be able to latch onto, which is what I really enjoy about any bark-based media. So this is your ordinary seedling mix. This is seedling mix that you pick up in the small bags at your local builders, and I'm going to tell you to add it, okay? And we're going to use the same amount of this that we used of the palm peat. So that is 1, 2, and 3. Okay, there it is. So now that we've done that, we give this a good mixture. Give it a good mix. And you're going to see, so we've got the river sand, which is for drainage, okay? Because river sand is incredibly well draining. So we've got the well draining, but at the same time, we've got the palm peat that holds moisture. Yeah, it's a juxta, but that means we get a good equilibrium at the end of the day. And then we've got our seedling mix, which is just gonna bulk it up and give the plant something to dig into. Okay, something just to dig into. Right, there's our mixture. Have a look at that. And the beauty about this, folks, is that have it mixed, have a trug like this ready with it, so when you get the urge to take some cuttings, or you've been pruning something in the garden and you want to make sure that you can do it, you know, have it ready. That's all that gardening is about. It's about preparation. Make sure you've got this little guy ready. Have it put in your garage somewhere so that when you're ready for it, away you go. Okay, next up. Now, next up, what we're going to need is a tray. All right, now, this is what we call a seedling tray, a germination tray. And you'll notice it's got really big holes because drainage is critical. Very, very important. Now, you can either do it in that, or you can do them directly into pots like this. Now, take a look here. These are little fuchsia cuttings that we took a while ago, and you'll see the little packet on top here. All right, on the little packet, we pop it over, and we've got these little sticks here, these little society sticks, which just help to hold the packet up. But we've put the cuttings directly into here. And these are little fuchsia cuttings. And you can see the mixture. There's the river sand, there's the soil, and your palm peat in here as well. Okay, so you can either do them straight into the pots like that. And it depends really on how many you've got, you know, how many you need to do. So, and another way here is like we're seeing right there, and this is with hardwood cuttings straight into a plastic bag, which also makes life easier. So it really doesn't matter, folks, whatever you've got at hand. But for softwood and for tip cuttings, I always go in a tray like this. It's just easier to control. And the other aspect is as well is that I can really get a lot in here. I really can pack them in. And you would have noticed, I mean, these are camellias. Look how many we've gotten here. We have got them tight and packed like sardines. Now, is there a reason for that? Believe it or not, there is. And the reasoning is as follows. It's been proven that if you take one cutting and you put it in one pot by its lonesome, and if you take 3 cuttings or 2 and you put them together in a single pot, the ones where there are more than one root quicker. Weird, eh? Yeah. Plants are sociable creatures. They like to hang out with each other. There's a chemical reaction. There's something that the plants give off. They kind of support each other. They help each other out. And it's like no man is an island unto himself. And likewise, no plant should be an island unto itself. So you will never, ever see one simple cutting being put in a bag by any person who knows anything about growing in South Africa. In fact, probably in the world. And it's so fascinating. I mean, it really blows my mind. Likewise for seeds. That's why it's better to sow seeds together and then to prick them out, because there is a chemical reaction where they start talking to each other, feeding each other, and almost supporting each other through this. I love it. All right, now, next what we're going to do is we're simply just going to level this out. Okay, and here is our mixture. Now, once again, you can have a few of these ready. You know, you can have a few of these guys ready so that when the urge hits you and you're wanting to take cuttings, well, it's there. Bob's your uncle, ready to go. All right, so let's get this out the way. Now we're going to get to the slightly technical bit. But now, don't stress yourself out, guys, because we're going to talk you through this step by step. But this is the way to do it to avoid disappointment. Avoid disappointment. So, in here, now, this is before. Notice, I haven't even taken one cutting yet. I haven't even started that. No. What I'm doing is, in a little plastic little bucky here, I'm just adding in some water. All right, into this, I'm adding probably the key ingredient. Folks, this is the secret. This is the secret. This stuff over here is called Root Pro. What it is a beneficial fungi. Are you saying to me, oh, fungi beneficial? I thought they were all bad. No, this stuff is called trichoderma. It grows under the soil alongside your plants. And what this does is it stops one of the biggest failures and one of the biggest problems that we get when we are taking cuttings, propagating or sowing seed, and that's called root rot or dampening off. And you will see sometimes you've put some cuttings in and then like half of them are just overnight, and it literally is overnight. They're dead. They're like wilted. Same with your seedlings. They'll all come up beautifully. They get to 2-3 centimeters in height and they just fall over. And that is a pathogen, and it's called dampening off. And what this stuff does is we are going to inoculate the seeds or our cuttings, and all it is a bit of this powder. Once we add it into the water, it comes alive. It literally does. It's called trichoderma. It grows alongside the hyphae, grow alongside the plants and almost protect it. It's quite fascinating. It's used extensively all over the world for taking cuttings, for seed propagation. Macadamia nut farmers use this stuff like water, literally, and so do avo farmers. Okay, so there it is. Mix it all up. Nice and simple. And guys, I urge you, I really, really do urge you, if you have got any seedlings or seedling trays that you've bought like this from your local builders, and you have the opportunity, is to put some of this trichoderma, your Root Pro, into a Tupperware and just dunk them, just drench them in here, even before you're transplanting. For instance, if we were taking this little basil, what I would do is take it and I would just dunk it in here, dunk it in there. And now what we've done is we've inoculated it with the good fungi. Fantastic. We're going to plant it. It's going to have this little shield of armor around it. Brilliant. And you will find you will have far less plants that battle with transplant or that don't make it through. Okay, right. Next up. The all-important hormone powder. Now, don't get too stressed out about this. It's a very, very simple process. In one of these little guys over here, I'm just going to add a little bit of water. Okay, you're going to see why we're going to do that. And now we get down to these guys. Okay, these are the guys that you see on the shelf. It's called Dynaroot, and they're labeled number 1, 2, and 3. And 1, 2, and 3 is dependent on what you are taking cuttings of. So it's softwood, semi-hardwood, and hardwood. And those are the ones that I've been referring to. So we know what softwood are. Those are the tips. We've got semi-hardwood, which is just slightly further down, or it is a tip that is then hardened. And then we've got hardwood cuttings, which are like these, bougainvillea or nandina. This is a true hardwood cutting. See that? Okay, so does that make sense? So whatever it is, so we are going for semi, which is number 2. And basically what is in here, and we're going to tip some out. Notice I'm tipping it out. I am not leaving this here. I'm tipping a bit out. You will more than likely always, and if in doubt, go with number 2. Seriously, if in doubt, go with number 2. Because what it is is that it's just the percentage of hormone that is in here. It's a growth stimulating hormone. So what it does is it stimulates root growth. So when we take our cutting, we've got all of this. We're going to dip it into this. All of that concentrated on the end where the scar is. Pop it in, and you've got that hormone that is going straight into the plant's cambium, into its vascular system. Okay, right. Next up. Finally, we're getting to it. Finally. Okay, this is where you get to take your cuttings. So, guys, when you take your cuttings, we're going to be doing tip cuttings here. Remember I spoke about they slightly hardened off. So we're going to take these, always remove the flower, and then what we do is we simply pop them in here. So we are dunking them in here, in between, going from there to there. We're not leaving them out in the blazing sun to get damaged, to start dehydrating. We're treating them as carefully as possible. And this is ideal for when you're doing any pruning. Absolutely ideal. So here we go. We take a few of those, pop them in there. And this, and you'll notice when we're doing it as well, when I've done my final pruning, is that they're really not very big at all. Okay, so there they are. Of course, you can take as many or as few as you want. Once they've been dunked in here, remember we've now inoculated them, we can then prepare it. Now, when you're preparing your cutting, this is what I want you to do. Biggest is not always best. Really? Absolutely. You want your cutting to be about 3 to 4 centimeters in length. That is it. You want some good growth on the top, and I've got some little flower buds there, so I'm actually just nipping them off. And then you want a bit of stem. Now, where we need stem, we then just remove those bits. So I've got more stem in proportion to foliage. Very, very important, okay? And that is the size. Can you see that? And I'm going to use, let me put it on my hand here, because that's a better way for you to see the size. Okay, so that's the preparation of one little cutting. You'll always read in the books that they say, make your cut, your final cut, at a 45 degree. Why are we doing that? It's really simple, because, look here, there's a flat cut. Gosh, I don't know if Mason can get in here and see this. There's a flat cut, there's a 45 degree. A 45 degree has got more leaf, more surface area for roots to develop, and I can put more hormone powder on here rather than a straight cut. That's why we do the 45 cut. Okay, so we've got that. Very simple, guys. We now take this little guy, dip it into some water, dip it into the hormone powder. So the end has now got my hormone powder on it, and then we simply just take it and pop them in there. You'll notice I've got this little stick that's hanging around, and what I like to do with that is just firm it in, nice and easy. Next one, strip it at the base, okay, 45 degree, dip, dip, in it goes, firm, nice and simple, guys. Very therapeutic, let me tell you how therapeutic this is. Strip, 45, dip, dip, in it goes. I'm only going to do one line, else I could be here forever. But once you've got your setup, it's so easy, folks. It really, really is nice and easy. Let me take that off there. Dip, dip, and in it goes. Okay, firm it down. Beautiful. All right. That is the process. That is as simple or as difficult as it is. All we've done is we have controlled the size of it. We have made sure that we've removed quite a bit of leaf growth, because remember, we've put this little cutting in here now. If we have too many leaves on it, the guy's going to battle. It's going to transpire too much. Very, very important. The next thing that we do is that we are going to get one of these guys. Now you can be super fancy and get one of these, and they really do help you, and they're actually not that expensive. Available at your local builders, guys. And this is called a mini greenhouse. Now, I love these mini greenhouses because they just make life so much simpler, because they've got a base over here. which means that if I water them and I put a bit of extra water in, I'm not going to lose that water. And if I'm out at work for the whole day and I don't get home in time and these guys dry out, it doesn't matter. They'll be able to still suck up some of the moisture from the base. We've got the little lid that fits over nice and snugly, and we've got the little vents here, which I will talk to you about in a minute. So what we do is we take our little tray, pop it in there, and then we're going to give it a good watering. Now, a good watering can either be by a little spray, all right, a good watering, or if you do trust yourself, and I say if you do trust yourself, then you can go with a very fine rose, all right. But it's important, folks, it's really, really important that you are going to give them a good drenching. Okay, so once they've done that, what I always do is this, is I just take a little bit extra and I add it in the base. Okay, so now I know I've got a little bit extra here. If I get busy and I forget about them, I know that they're not going to dry out. If they dry out, folks, they are dead. Correct. Right. Then we take our lid, pop it on, all right, and we're going to close the vents. When we close the vents, what happens is we're basically creating Earth's atmosphere. There's going to be a little greenhouse effect happening here, which is exactly what we did in a slightly more cowboyish way, which was on the little packet that we put over the terracotta pot, exactly the same. All right, I believe there are some questions, so let's go to the queue. Right, let's just go to this over here. Right, what's the good size for rose cuttings and for fruit tree cuttings too? Ooh, okay. Now, rose cuttings. Rose cuttings are going to be, you're going to take a semi-hardwood cutting, all right? So let's just move this here so I can just explain it to you a little bit in detail. So, rose cuttings, I would suggest that you're going to do them as follows, like this. This is Nandina. So, and Nandina and any hardwood cuttings, remember I said you put them directly into river sand. This is plain river sand. Easy, simple, does the trick. And with rose cuttings, I would definitely put them in a bag like this. And this is a 3-liter bag or into a pot. And you would take down the middle of the stem. So it's what we call a semi-hardwood. Semi-hardwood cutting, halfway down the stem, not a tip cutting. Okay? Semi-hardwood, halfway down the stem. And here, when you are making these cuts, and let us show you on this Nandina here. Come down with me here, Mason, and we're going to use this as your rule of thumb for when you are taking your rose cuttings. Okay, so here's our Nandina. What we're going to do is we're going to look for some nodes. Okay, so here there was a leaf coming off there. There's a node. There's another node over there. All right, and there is our tip. Okay, so we don't have to do that. But what I can do is I'm going to do this. I'm going to prune it just below this node, there, okay, prune it just below the node, and now I've got some top growth, and I've got a node where I know there's going to be growth, and here is where I've got my wound, all right, and this is going to work perfectly for a cutting. If we have to move further down, to give you another example, if we had to take it from, I don't have many shoots coming on here because it's in a bag. But we could very well do it like this. And this is a good point of caution, folks. I'm actually going to show you this now. Come back with me here to the table because I want to show you what happens when there are no leaves. How on earth do you remember if I cut this off here? I just want to test myself quickly. If I cut this off here, how do I know what is the top and what's the bottom? Oh, you end up planting them upside down. Okay, remember I said to you earlier, we do a 45 cut at the bottom. So I've done a 45 cut at the bottom, I know that's the bottom. A straight cut at the top, I know that is the top. Okay, got it. You can, and okay, and I hear you, you're sitting there saying, Tanya, but other people do it differently. That's okay. They can do it differently because some cut a 45 at the top, okay, to stop water from settling in it. It's 6 of one and half a dozen of the other, guys. But this is your length of your hardwood cutting or your semi-hardwood cutting that you would do with your rose. Same procedure, dip it in, into the river sand it goes, and look what's happened here. These are beautiful Nandinas. They've stayed nice and moist, and I'm just going to pop one out to show you the amazing root growth in here. So let's do that. And look there. Yeah. Look at that. Do you see that? All along where you have submerged that, there are your beautiful roots. Quite amazing, isn't it? Quite amazing. Straight off this hardwood. Okay, right. Okay, there was another question here, which I didn't. We're in the process of moving and can't plant bougainvillea cutting straight away. How can I preserve a cutting and get it in the soil later? No. You've got to take the cutting now. You've got to take the cutting and put it into a little container like this or into a pot so that you can then put them in the car. Put them in the car with you when you're moving house. Okay, so you must take the cuttings. Or else speak to the new people who are moving in and you say to them, you're coming back to get your bougainvillea cuttings. And remember your bougainvillea, I'm going to show that to you now. Let's get this big guy out the way. I'm going to show you your bougainvillea cuttings, which are hardwood. Guys, exactly the same. Okay, exactly the same. They're in plain river sand, hardwood cuttings, and away they go. All right, now, whilst we are doing this, let's talk about the next step. Because I think it's important that we get that right, and that is the next step when we go from here into the next pot. And this is when things can go slightly wrong, but all you've got to do is make sure that your soil prep is done correctly, and you should be fine. What I would use and what I would recommend for this is just a plain, this is a potting soil, but this, folks, is the premium potting soil that has recently been made available at your local builders. It costs a bit more, but it costs a bit more because it is the right stuff. It is amazing. I've done a clip on it, which is on the YouTube channel, so do take a look at it. We put this product through its paces. From crawl manure, it's got a bit of perlite in it, some vermiculite. It really does the job beautifully. Okay, so I am going to need a pot. I don't think I bought a pot along. A plastic pot will be fine just to do this little cutting into, so that I can then show everybody what we're doing. Into my premium potting soil, the only thing I want to add is a handful or two of organic pellets. All right, and all that's going to do is now I am adding in the goodness. Okay, so I've got organic, slow release, pelletized fertilizer, and what we're going to do is just give it a good mix. And this then is going to be the medium that we are going to transplant this little guy into. Okay. All righty. Right, let's get that out the way there. Okay. It's not advisable to take your cutting from this size to then go straight into the ground. Really not advisable. That process, you are sure to set yourself up for failure there. So in here, just a bit of my potting soil, my premium potting soil, folks. I then pop my cutting in, all right? Pop it in there, keeping the same level, and I'm holding it. Notice I have not filled this pot up, because as I'm now going to backfill slowly, all right, slowly I'm backfilling, I'm then allowing these roots just to get in contact with my mix over here, and that is just going to make it so much better. I'm not trying to shove it in, because very often these roots are quite brittle and they can break off. Okay, so there it is. And then, of course, a very good watering. Okay, nice and easy, guys. It couldn't get any simpler than that. when we come to cuttings, other things that I can show you and I can recommend that are really, really easy to do would be over here, rosemary cuttings. This would be a tip cutting. Okay, follow the same procedure that I showed you. Same mix. Beg your pardon. That is a tip cutting. Geraniums, so soft perennials. Remember I said to you, use that as your guide. It's a soft perennial. They would be tip cutting. So here's beautiful geraniums. Nice and easy. Let me show you one very quickly how you would do it, because there's a lot of leaf surface on here. And you might say, well, Tanya, I don't really know how to do that. Okay, but let's look at this. Here we've got two. What I would do is I would snip this off. Take that little guy off. Remove some leaves. Remember, we don't want too many leaves. And another trick to help, oh, this geranium smells beautiful. Another way to help by reducing transpiration and by reducing the stress when you take a cutting is just to reduce the leaf surface of these large leaves. It really does help. Okay, so there we've got one there. Let me show you another one very quickly. Take off these little side shoots. There we go. Perfect. There's my little cutting. Nice and easy. Okay, we could even go a little bit shorter there. Nice and simple. Remember we said more stem than growth. Okay, right, we've got some more questions here. Let's do it. Can I put different cuttings in the same pot? Yes, as long as they're the same kind of cutting. 100%. Annika, good. Yes, yes. You certainly can do that. Where would you do the cutting of a feather duster tree? Oh, no. That's not going to like. Some plants just don't like having cuttings taken. Some of them, that isn't their best form of propagation. With your feather duster tree, your Charlobium, Schizalobium is going to be better by seeds, not by cuttings. I wonder if you could do truncheons. You could maybe do truncheons, which is literally a whole stem is cut off, and you would see that with some coral trees. You can do it with some coral trees, and also some of the paper bark. What is that plant called? Peltiforum. You can also do it with that. But yeah, stick with the smaller stuff first. Okay, really. How do I create cutting from a kumquat tree? Okay, no. Okay, kumquat trees, any fruit trees, guys. Okay, any fruit trees, and use this as a general rule. Any fruit trees, you do not want to propagate them by means of cuttings. The fruit trees that we purchase, which is the way to go, have all been grafted. They've been grafted onto a mature rootstock, which is why your naartjie tree or your lemon tree or your avo tree will bear fruit within 2 to 3 years, as opposed to growing an avo from a pip, which would take 7 to 8 years to produce fruit. And that is why we buy grafted trees. Okay, and it's important. So cuttings, you can do it, but I'm going to tell you, 9 times out of 10, you're going to wait a long, very long time before that thing gives you fruit. And the second thing is, because it doesn't have a good root system, which are often susceptible to fungal diseases, it will probably die, which is also why most rose bushes that we buy have been grafted. Okay, very important note. All right, guys, we are moving along at a rapid rate. The next thing I want to show you very quickly is seed sowing. Okay, now seed sowing. Whoa, ho, ho, ho. Okay, let's not get stressed out, because this is going to be nice and simple, nice and easy, and we're going to do it as follows. Right. Keep seed sowing down to a minimal. Keep it easy, guys. Keep it really easy. And I'm going to show you the following ways to do it. And this is by far one of the most successful methods I have also used for a long time, and it works like a dream. Okay, but before I get to this, while I just sort out my surface here, before I get to this, guys, I'm going to switch quickly to a video that our great DIY guy Exo did. And this is a little sneak peek, folks, a little sneak peek where he makes container out of pavers. Really? Container out of pavers. Take a look here. We've got a sneak peek for you.
Thanks, Tanya. When gardening meets DIY, we get something functional and aesthetically pleasing. Now this is one of the simplest and the quickest builds that I've ever made. A few pavers, fastcretes, and a few clamps. And here we are. Now if you want to see how I made this, click the link in the description below. Over to you.
See, there's a question here. Now, isn't that quite a cool container to make? Nice and easy. So have a look. It's on the YouTube channel. And guys, it's literally about taking 4 pavers, whatever size you want, popping them together, clamp here and there you have it. Pavers to your size, to your dimension. Nice and simple. Okay, I've got a question here. Any way to know what trees won't take cuttings with? I have a few I want. Pride of India and a holly bush. Yes, because those are shrubs. They're not trees. Trees, big trunks, mature plants. You generally cannot take cuttings of them. But a Pride of India is a large shrub. There you can take semi-hardwood and you can even take tip cuttings. And the same with a bottle brush. Tip cuttings are the best. Nice and easy, so you can do it. All right, let's get on to, is there a special time of the year to take cuttings? Very good question. Very, very good question. Yes, there is, and no, there isn't. It depends on the plant. Remember, it's all about the timing of when these little shoots, okay, have hardened up. That's what's important. So in autumn is always a good time, and mid-spring, not early spring, because early spring, the growth is very, very soft because it's the first flush. So it's better mid-spring when it's hardened off. But in saying that, if you're living in the tropics, folks, you can take cuttings almost all year round. If you're in a temperate area, so the Mpumalangas, down the coastal belts, you really can. Gauteng, of course, you've got to worry about frost. And then if you are going to be taking cuttings at other times of the year, just make sure that they are kept warm. Temperature is key for rooting. It's very, very important, which is why we put them into that mini greenhouse, or we put a packet over them, because it just helps to keep the soil warm. When you've got warmth, you have growth. Okay, very important. Right, let's rush along to seed sowing. Okay, seed sowing, nice and easy, guys. Really nice and easy. Don't make this don't get stressed out over it. So very, very quickly, the bigger seeds, like your beans, what else have we got here? Cucumbers, some turnips. The bigger seeds you can sow what we call directly into where they're growing. However, even with some, depending on how confident you are in what you're doing, I would personally rather do it this way. Beans are like a given. You can easily do that. Whether it's a broad bean, a runner bean, a bush bean, you can sow them directly into where they need to grow. But for me, I always do it this way, and then we pot on from there, because we keep life simple and we take away any problems. We take away areas where I know things could go wrong. Okay, so what are we putting in here? Nothing groundbreaking, no rocket science at all. All we're doing is we're putting in some of our palm peat. That is it as the germinating mix. Nothing else. So all you need is this block. We pop it in here, okay? Pop it in here, and coming up to autumn now, it's a beautiful time to start sowing all your winter seedlings. Okay, let's get that over here. And all I'm going to do is take a little plank, and I'm just going to even this off over here. Okay, we're not squashing it because we want to keep all the air pockets. We are not squashing it. All I'm doing is getting a nice level surface. Right, once I've got that set aside. Next up, we are going to take our seeds of choice. Now, I love this spinach. This spinach is brilliant. Okay, this is a Garden Master spinach. It is vigorous, folks, like superbly vigorous. It's inexpensive. It grows like a weed, literally. And once you have got this is called monstrous viroflay. It's almost a mix between your baby spinach, because it gets a much bigger leaf, your baby spinach, and your New Zealand sea spinach. That's kind of what it is, but it packs a punch. It carries on for long time. And once you've got some in the garden, you'll always want to have it. Now, have a look at the size of the seed. Some seed, thank goodness, is a bit bigger. Other seed is much smaller. So I'm going to show you very quickly 2 ways in which you can do your seed sowing. This is with slightly bigger seed, the method that I'm about to show you. And in this way, guys, it literally is the following. Take a seed, pop it in. Take a seed, pop it in. Try and get your spacing. And this will pay off in the end. Because if you don't do it like this and you try and do that, you are going to have 30 little spinach coming up in 1 square centimeter, which is why it is always better with larger seed to be patient and do it like that. Okay? Because then we get our spacing. When these guys germinate, they've got enough space to grow and put on some leaves, because then when it comes to transplanting, I'm not going to be damaging or sacrificing any others that are around if I had to do it in this method. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm taking that away, because that was not the way to do it. Okay, and we pop one there. So with bigger seeds, it's always much easier, much easier. Okay, right, once we've done that, we can do the following. I'm just going to put this aside here. Okay, next up, with your bigger seeds, all you can do is you literally just depress it down a little bit. Just a little press. Okay, just like that. All right, and then you can cover them just with your hand here with a wee bit of this palm peat. And then a nice firming down, because now we've got the seed in contact with our palm peat. Nice and simple. You see how it really wasn't that difficult. And then finally, always important, is to write down what you sowed, because you'll think you will remember. What's coming up? Oh, I have no idea. Okay, so write down the name, the date, and this is spinach. Are we the 17th today? Right, and we pop in the label. Very important, because when this stuff germinates, and you're going to say, why caramba, what did I put there? Final step is into our little propagating house. Good watering. Good watering. Okay, or with a very fine rose. Pop it in here. Cover it up. Vents closed. All you're going to do is keep an eye then on your medium. When it starts drying, when it starts changing color, you know it's starting to dry out. Top up the water. You can have it in here with your cuttings, all the same, nice and easy. Okay, but I haven't showed you the final method, which is if you have got very fine seed. Now, I think the big man upstairs, I think he like, seriously, he laughs at us, and I get that. I get that, because he's like, okay, I'm going to show you what nature does. And if you've ever tried to sow parsley and you have realized how fine the seed is, you will actually have a mini heart attack, and that's also okay. But have a look here. I'm going to show you a nice and easy way of how to deal with it. Now, parsley, I mean, there are probably about 100 little plants here, if that had to all germinate. And it will be impossible for me to take one seed and do it like I did those guys. Impossible. So what I do is I take literally 2 pinches. 2 pinches of seed. So that would be 1 pinch. There's my 2nd pinch. Okay, so now if you're not very confident about this whole seed sowing thing, then I want you to do the following. You take a bit of flour, pop a bit of flour there, pop your seeds in, and give it a good mix. Okay, so you can use other mediums for this. I do like using the flour because you can actually see the seeds, you know, because seeds are brown, flour's white. Okay, just a bit of flour. Mix it in. You can also use mealie meal for this. You can also use river sand. You can also use just some of your palm peat. It does exactly the same job. But for early beginner gardeners, go with this, guys. It's a sure winner. All right, now that we've mixed it in, it's been distributed amongst the flour. All we're now going to do is we are going to gently distribute this over the area. Now, if you are not confident with doing it this way that I'm doing, what I want you to do is rather just take little bits and then pop it in. And try and cover the entire surface area. Okay, and then you can actually start seeing the seeds. There's one, there's one. Okay, but because we've distributed it nice and evenly, I know that they're all not going to come up in one clump. Hallelujah. Okay, once we've done that, nice, we've got it there. Final thing that I want to do is take a little bit more of my seedling mix, not of my seedling mix, of my palm peat, and just a very, very little sprinkling on top. And remember, it's nice and fine, so even if you go a bit thick, it's okay. It really is okay. But it's nice and lightweight, which means that our seeds will definitely make it through here. Okay, there we go. You can, as an option, add some vermiculite to this. Vermiculite is a volcanic product that also holds moisture, and it's used, in fact, they use it to hatch eggs because it has heating properties, which means that heat, remember we spoke about heat is good for germination, so you can always put a little layer on top here, but if you don't have to, it's just another fail-safe. You then firm it down. So we've got the seeds in contact with the palm peat. Remember to label it. And Bob's your uncle. Nice and easy. Okay, let's label this. I put in some parsley here. Okay. Right. Good watering. Oh, and by the way, if you've got some of this left, if you've got some of your Root Pro that we were using. Root Pro is brilliant for seeds, so I would decant this into my spray bottle or just simply pop it into my watering can and then give these a good spray, because then we're inoculating the seed as well. All right, once we've done that, guys, let's take this, pop it over here. In fact, I'm going to take a bit of this and just pop it in the base here. So when my seeds need it, they can just suck it all up. Right. Pop the lid on into a bright, well-lit spot, and close the vents. Keep it well watered, and it's as simple as that. All right. That is it. When they germinate and they get to what we call our 2 or our 4 true leaves, what is the next step? Let's have a look here, Mace, if you come along with me here. And I'm just going to explain this very quickly. These are some artichoke seeds. And you can see how they were put in the, because it's a bigger seed, you can almost see there's the little seed husk that's coming off. Oh, no. You can see how they were spaced out nicely. From here, once they get to the 2 true leaves. So we saw that, 2 true leaves here. What we would then do is you grab the little guy by his ears, grab him there. I normally use one of these little society sticks. Get in there, lift it up as gently as you can. Lift it up. There we go. Out comes our little seedling. Look at that, mommy. Look at it. Too cute. And from here, I would then transplant into a smaller pot, like a little 8 or 10 centimeter plastic pot. You could put 3 in here. You could put 1 in here. And here you would just use an ordinary growing medium. Pop it into here, firm it down, and that is your transplanting until it gets a bit bigger for when you can then move it into the garden. So I'm going to put this little guy back here because I've got one more thing to show you, and that is succulent cuttings. Now, come and have a look over here. I'm going to explain this very, very briefly. A lot of us end up with plants and succulents that end up looking like this, all right? And they're getting a bit leggy. You can see they've got some shoots coming from the base. So what do? We keep it very, very simple, folks. There are 2 ways that we can go about this here. Is one, we can then take these little cuttings from the top, just like that, all right? And we can also, in this process, we can, like in this guy over here, we can take this, okay, but I can also use the leaves. Now, have a look over here. Different forms of what we've done. So, this tray has what we call the tips. So, that was just taking like a little tip cutting that we explained to you earlier. And these are little ioniums. And I can tell, oh, by just giving it a gentle tug, that it is already rooted. So it's a simple process, but we don't plant it immediately. Unlike trying to get our shrubs and our perennials as quickly into the succulent, into our medium as possible. However, it's different with succulents. With succulents, because they've got such a thick, fleshy leaf, what we want to do is we want these little cuttings that we've taken to what we call callus. Now, if you come in here and have a look, can you see it's almost scarred at the bottom? It's dried up a bit. Oh, there we go, there we go. You see that? It's almost dried up. Now, that prevents rotting. So it's important you pick them, you leave them a day or two so that they callus up, and then you're going to plant them. Okay. Now, not only do we have that option, but we also have the leaf option. Now, when you take the leaves off, you just pop them sideways like that. See, there we go. Sideways like that. There I've got a little tip cutting. Ooh, right. Plus I've got a whole lot of leaves. And the leaves are nice and easy. This is how I do the leaves. They're done in a palm peat mix, which has got a bit of river sand in it. I use these little sticks because they help with the leaves. And then I simply just take the leaf, pop it in here, cover it with a bit of vermiculite, and these are only a couple of weeks old, and look at these little babies already pushing through. Nice and easy, guys. Nice and easy. And that is probably one of the simplest, easiest ways that you can propagate. Great fun out of it, and lots of reward. Folks, we have rushed through this morning the many different types of cuttings. I see there are 2 more questions. I'm going to try and answer these for you very, very quickly. Colleen wants to know about for the frangipani. Do you wipe it off? No. The frangipani treat like a succulent. Cut it, leave it in the shade, let it scar. It's going to scar. It'll take sometimes a couple of hours for the sap to stop flowing. Then you will put that frangipani into river sand. Yes, you got it, because thick, fleshy, it needs good drainage. Okay, nice and easy. Can I take hydrangeas now or after winter? No, 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 no. I would take them, your spring growth, remember I said early spring, but off your semi-hardwood, you can actually take in autumn. Hydrangeas you can take at both time of the year. You can take some now because they've put on some nice new green growth. Whatever is there, you can take tip cuttings from them, and hydrangeas are best from tip cuttings. So you can take now, and then in spring, early flush, soon as those have thickened up a bit and they're not so soft, you can take tip cuttings from there. Guys, that is the 101 of propagation. It has been a race through, but I think you've got the basics. Remember, what's the worst that can go wrong? You'll need to try again, and that's okay. That is okay. I've made many mistakes along the way. I really have. And the trick is, every time we do something and we follow instructions, and if you follow the tips that I've just given you this morning, guys, I know you'll be better at it. And when you're better at it, you want to do it again and again and again. Please remember to visit the blog for great videos and other DIY tasks and inspiration to turn you into a green-fingered guru. Thank you for spending the last hour with me, for lending me your ears and your hearts. God bless you all, and most importantly, happy gardening.